At first, Antiguan tour company owner Eli Fuller was skeptical about climate change.
When I heard all the reasons that international media were giving, I wasn't completely convinced.
Fuller is a bit of a local expert on the ocean here in the Caribbean nation of Antigua and Barbuda. A former Olympic sailor and windsurfer, he now earns a living showing off the island's great beauty to its many visitors.
It wasn't until very recently that I started to say, yes, this now makes sense.
He took us on a tour around the southern end of Antigua to show us what convinced him.
Beneath us is Cades Reef, a 3-mile-long barrier reef that stretches along Antigua's southern shore. In recent years, it's been totally devastated, leaving the shoreline much more vulnerable to rising sea levels and storms.
It happened, like I said, so quickly that you went from having what looked like an underwater jungle, like something you'd see in the Amazon forest, to being complete wreckage. I mean, just carnage.
It's not just happening here in Antigua. In the last few years, coral reefs across the Caribbean have broken down and died off. An ecological disaster with many causes: development, overfishing, water pollution. But also blamed are rising water temperatures, increasingly violent weather, and more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which many scientists say are linked to climate change. And climate change isn't just destroying the coral reefs in the Caribbean, many people say. It's also causing sea levels to rise and violent weather, which in turn is eroding the beaches. And the warm weather and water temperatures are affecting the plants, animals, and fish. They are complex environmental problems, and local scientists we spoke to said they just don't have the data to say for certain what's going on. It could be El Nino, or just a freak weather occurrence. But a growing body of international research says that climate change is causing similar events all around the world. And many local officials in the Caribbean are convinced that climate change is to blame here too.
I think climate change is going to affect all of us. We're seeing changes in weather patterns over the last 8 or 10 years. I think it's no secret that we've had bigger and stronger hurricanes. We see the erosion of our beaches.
In front of us here, this is OJ's Beach Bar.
Eli Fuller showed us some of those eroding beaches.
This beach has been hit very hard by coastal erosion. OJ's Beach Bar has turned into OJ's Rock Bar because OJ had to put rocks along the shoreline to stop his bar from falling into the sea. Over here on the beach to my left, you know, this little tiny beach doesn't have much to play with. And when you all of a sudden get more wave action on the beach, you have more erosion, and all of a sudden the hotel guests over there don't have a beach. And so our economy is really definitely directly affected by the various effects of climate change.
Antigua's economy is overwhelmingly dependent on its wealthy visitors. Some 60% of its GDP comes from tourism. And so if climate change brings more eroding beaches and dying coral, and thus fewer tourists, that could spell economic trouble for this tiny country. Antigua isn't alone in sounding the alarm on climate change. Countries in the Caribbean and around the world have formed the Alliance of Small Island States. They say climate change is coming, and it will affect them the most.
The small island developing states are not responsible for what is happening, but our survival is being threatened.
The Alliance of Small Island States is chaired by Grenada, another small Caribbean nation about 350 miles south of Antigua. Grenadian officials also ticked off a list of environmental issues they're dealing with: violent weather, erosion, and warmer than usual water temperatures that are making the fish harvest unpredictable. Fishing is an important source of income, not to mention food, here in Grenada. We stopped in the fishing village of Soubise on Grenada's eastern coast, where the sea is lapping against these homes, and met fisherman Oliver Noel. We asked him how the fishing was going.
No, not doing well. Fishing them not hauling. With them fish not pulling. I don't really know what is going on, you know. They're not biting, you know.
On the other side of the island, we heard just the opposite. Part-time fisherman Elmond Mitchell said he has plenty of work now because of an unusual surplus of a local fish called jacks.
Well, they say climate change, the all jacks come. But I don't believe that. I believe the good lots on the jacks.
The same warm water temperatures that are causing the weird fish behavior in Grenada are also linked to increasingly violent and more frequent storms, like Hurricane Ivan, which slammed ashore in 2004 and caused almost $1 billion worth of damage. Once again, local officials blame climate change, and they argue that if disasters like this are now an inevitable part of their future, they are going to need help from those they say who caused the problem in the first place.
But when people have lost their livelihoods, their land, their homes, their property, permanently, what do? Do you just tell them, oh, I'm sorry?
This issue of financial aid turned out to be one of the few on which the small island states had any success at the climate change talks in Copenhagen last December. While their long list of demands went mostly unmet, they did get the industrialized countries to commit to a fund to help developing nations like the small islands manage the effects of climate change. But almost 3 months later, there's still no plan for who will pay what, when, or how the funds will be handed out. So for now, the small island states continue their struggle to figure out how they will preserve their Paradise Island homes, and what else it will take to convince the rest of the world to do something before it's too late. For World Focus, this is Megan Thompson reporting from Grenada.